We spend a good part of each day on technical issues. If it's not
Okay,
the
we're
rain.
back on live, just so you know.
That's okay.
Oh, awesome.
So do we have any, are we sure we got people listening?
There's
Well,
11
we
back.
will. Yes, we have several people listening. If you can hear us and see us, can you write something in the chat? The first part of this video, unfortunately, was on another video, and now we're on a second part. Oh, what's happening? Do you hear that?
No?
I hear something.
I hear Tony Robbins. Why do I hear Tony Robbins?
I didn't realize this was going to be that
I know.
famous kind of show.
Do people see us? Yes, if you can write something in the chat.
There we go.
Thank God. Okay.
All right, so shall I just continue where I left off?
Yeah, so why don't we just go back a little bit? Yes, Cindy, we're back on. I am so sorry. We're in a different. Oh my God. Thank you for your patience. I mean, I think this is kind of like what it must be like to pick up and leave and move abroad, right? You gotta just run with the punches, roll with the punches.
Exactly.
Yes, this is so normal.
Nothing goes smoothly or as you plan.
Including our nice little webinar here. Okay. So we were talking about, let's just go back a little bit in terms of money and costs of living. So you were talking about how it's costing you about half of what it cost you in Florida?
Yes.
Actually,
less than half if you factor everything in. And I guess where I left off is I was saying that, we track everything because it's important for our clients to know exactly what things cost. So I would say a very realistic number, and I can't speak for Michele. I don't know if they drink more margaritas than us or maybe more red wine. I don't know, probably not. But,
Probably.
but we get by quite comfortably on $30,000 USD a year. We can get by on less. But we choose to budget 30,000. Now, when I say 30,000, I'm talking all in, which means our medical, yes,
Yeah.
our medical, our car insurance, our everything, HOA, electricity, gas.
Now, bear in mind, we own our home, so we don't have a mortgage and we don't pay rent.
Right. So that's different for you, Michele, right?
That's
right.
right.
So now I'm interested to hear Michele's perspective here.
Well, I'm embarrassed to say I'm not as organized as you, Glen. And we have only been here for 7 months. So I don't have the nickel and dimes down, but I definitely agree it's a lot less expensive. For one, though, we are Canadians, so our Medicare basically is a little different than what is offered to you guys. We do pay a little bit more there, but we're finding it insanely less expensive across the board. We're paying. We decided Glen and Tracey toured us around, and we looked at a lot of amazing properties. But at the end of the day, we just decided we didn't know where we wanted to be, so we decided to rent. Our rent is, we pay in pesos, so it's 25,000 pesos a month. So that works out to be about 1,500 Canadian. Now with the price of the pesos, it ended up being about 1,200 Canadian last month. So it all depends. I mean, paying in pesos is always better.
Right. And so 1,200 Canadian is about how much in US dollars?
About
Is it
1,600?
1 to 1? No.
No, less.
No, less. It's probably 1,900.
Yeah.
For how many bedrooms?
We have 3 bedrooms. We have a little backyard because we have animals. It's a 2-story. We have better storage than some of the places we've looked at in the past. Storage is a big deal here. For whatever reason, there's not a lot. But we have decent storage. We've got an awesome washer and dryer. 3 bedrooms. The bedrooms are smaller, but we still have a king size bed. 3 bathrooms.
That's
So
awesome. That's
You know,
amazing.
I would
And so what
say,
about your utilities, Michelle? Are yours comparable to what Glen and Tracey are paying, or are you paying more, less?
absolutely. We just paid our water bill for last month and it was 127 pesos. So that's about $7.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So the only thing I would say, and I've heard this a lot lately, is from people with pools. If you have your own pool, the cost of propane to heat that pool during, January, February, and March is expensive. It would probably, in fact, someone was just saying they heated their pool and didn't realize the cost. And they went through their whole propane tank and it was about $400 to refill that propane tank. And that was
but
done by accident. But you don't have to heat your pool all year long. Like in the summer months from probably the end of March till December, you don't have to heat a pool.
Right. But you do, yeah. So, but people who do run their AC all day and all night can expect to pay upwards to almost $700 a month, I hear. Like, if you're
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
doing,
especially if you have a big house and you're not careful and a lot of people keep the sliders open. This is where a lot of folks who rent their places out feel the pinch because for the most part, renters, unlike Michelle, who actually care, a lot of them don't when they're here for a week or they're here for 3 days. They'll have the sliders open, the AC's running, and no one cares, right? So if you're not careful, yes, it can get very, very bad.
you know, we also put brand new inverter mini splits into our condo. And that's also dropped our bill considerably because they're so efficient. So if you do have an older home, that would be something we would say to people immediately: change out their air conditioning units.
So
And the price of that, the cost to do that is a fraction of what we would pay in the States.
to give you an example, when we moved into our house, I'd said it was neglected. We'd had storms, they'd not resealed the roof. We have a flat roof. And so we had a lot of water ingress, and the ACs were the original AC units. And so we repainted the house. We did the roof. We did brand new AC units, 3 new units. We did a lot of upgrades for about 6,000 USD. So
For everything.
For everything.
wow.
So the cost of labor and doing that sort of thing is really inexpensive. For instance, one AC unit in Tampa cost us $14,000 to replace the unit and all the bits and pieces. So it's significantly cheaper to do upgrades here. And so to buy something that needs a little bit of work isn't the end of the world. You don't have to buy something that's brand new to make it beautiful. And you can do that. So that's where you can get good deals, is you can really find those older homes. And if you're willing to do a little bit of work, you can do it very cheaply.
So tell me a little bit about where people live. So where do you live in respect to, I guess, Cabo San Lucas and San Jose? Where do both of you live? And where do you find that most, I would say for now, most expats from the States and from Canada live in the area? Are there certain neighborhoods that are known for certain things that people should kind of keep an eye out for?
So Michelle and us, we actually live in the same neighborhood. It's called El Tizal. So within that area, there's a lot of developments. And I would say predominantly the majority of expats, Canadians and Americans live in that area. If you choose to live in Cabo San Lucas, and then of course there's areas in the corridor and then areas in San Jose. But that's where we all live.
So this El Tizal area is home to about 80%, like I said, expats. It's where you'll see a lot of Americans and Canadians living. It's a super safe. The nice part about Cabo in particular is the geography. From the beach up into the hills, if you go like a mile in, you have about 600 to 700 foot elevation. And so you have the ability to have views from a lot of these areas we're talking about now. So when you look at the picture you're looking at, where we live, we're only about 100 feet off sea level, but another half a kilometer up the road, we're another 400 feet, and there's a lot of development. So the lovely part about living here is you get views. Unlike some of the other parts of Mexico, where you can have a lot of flat areas and you are looking at your neighbor's house. This is the one big advantage of this particular area.
We also are lucky enough to be right in behind the Walmart, Costco, Home Depot, amazing groceries. The grocery stores here are second to none. I have never seen a nicer grocery store than we have here in Cabo. And we're just so locally, like we're just so centered locally in this area. It's a wonderful area. There's the Del Mar International Schools here. There's another international school just down at the end of our road. So there's quite a few amenities around.
Do you find that you need a car to get around?
Yes.
Yes, I would say you need a car.
Yeah.
I mean, you can use Uber. You only need one car, preferably an SUV, because some of the roads are not super amazing. You know, there are areas that are dirt roads, even in the city. So and not quite the infrastructure you have in America or Canada, right? So it is better if you're coming down and you've got a car to have a car that's a little bit ruggedy, a truck or an SUV.
That's for sure. My brother wanted to bring down his convertible, and I told him he was crazy. You know, there's no point. That you need something with a higher clearance.
Yeah. Especially when it floods, because you've got to be able to get through. You know, when it rains, it pours, and we get a lot of that mountain runoff. And so you've got a couple of feet of water. And if you want to go to Walmart, you best have a car that's not a convertible.
Steve, the area that we live in is El Tizal.
How do you spell it? E-L?
E-L-T-E-Z-A-L.
Okay.
2 words.
So in terms of cars, I know that you know of a little hack, right, Glenn?
Yes.
About bringing your car over, because it's, specific to bringing a car over from the U.S. and Canada. There are certain rules that apply to Baja versus mainland Mexico, right?
Actually, it's interesting because the Baja is what's considered a free travel zone for Americans and Canadians. So you can actually bring your American plated car, drive it down the Baja and keep it here. And you can even keep it plated as, you know, California or whatever. But if you went to the other parts of Mexico, your car, you can only have your car in the state that you're in for a certain amount of time. Then you've got to get it out of Mexico, come back in. It's kind of like having a residency visa, but for your car, you can't, or you have to import it. We don't have that problem here on the Baja. But what you do find, and we had this experience, is some states in the United States require that you carry American insurance the whole time, even when you're coming into Mexico. But it's mandatory when you cross the border into Mexico to also buy Mexican insurance. So you have to have Mexican insurance. So in effect,
if
you could
have
end
an
up
American
carrying...
car. If you bought a car in the U.S. and you bring it over, the states require you to keep your American insurance.
Yes, some states, not all of them. So this is where the hack is. This is where the hack is. So some of them. So in effect, what I'm trying to say is you would end up carrying. Florida is a perfect example. You have to carry Florida insurance if your car's registered in Florida. Doesn't matter where you are. So that means now I've got to carry 2 insurance policies, which actually isn't legal.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have 2 insurance policies. So that puts you in the first quandary. So in order to get rid of the Florida licensing and insurance, you can register in South Dakota. And now that I've mentioned South Dakota, whoever comes to Cabo is going to suddenly start to see 1 million South Dakota plates. And the reason for that is you just need a PO box in the United States, and they will, you can register your car online every year, and they'll just send you a sticker that you put on, you know, to your tag. They'll send it to your PO box. that gets mailed to you here in Cabo. You stick it on your plate and you're good to go. So you don't need emissions. You've got South Dakota plates, and you only carry one set of coverage, insurance. So that's the South Dakota hack. Some people don't care. They go backwards and forwards, or they carry both. Some people like to carry both. But that's how most people handle it here on the Baja.
And also our car insurance here is so very reasonable. We only pay about $39 a month for car insurance.
Wow.
So compared to what we were paying in Tampa, and then of course in Toronto, we were paying an exorbitant amount for insurance.
And that, of course, will depend on the age of your car. So we have a 2015 Ford Escape SUV. So it's not a brand new car. So that would be a different price to the brand new car, the 2022, Lexus SUV, right? That's going to cost you more, just like everywhere else. But it's relatively quite a lot less expensive here than anywhere else, especially Canada. Canada has very, very high insurance rates.
That's right.
Can I just mention something? I saw a quick question there. Somebody was asking if you can buy without being a resident, and the answer is yes. You can buy here very easily just on your regular tourist visa.
Just to be clear, buy a house.
Yeah, a
Yes.
house.
Okay. If they're referring to, because we were talking about cars, if they're
Sorry,
referring to
yeah.
buying a vehicle, you need to have some form of residency here, and you need to have a local license.
Right. So
Yeah.
you can be a temporary resident and still buy a car.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is actually not very difficult to do at all, is to get residency. So that might be a separate chapter for you, Teresa. But to talk about like the driving here, it's very easy. However, if you have an American plated car and you wanted to go across the ferry from La Paz to mainland, there is a special permit you need to get in order to drive your American vehicle in the rest of mainland Mexico. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's more difficult on the mainland. Most people will end up buying a vehicle, getting their residency, and buying a local vehicle in mainland Mexico.
Oh, well, that makes sense. So actually, while we were talking about insurance, and then I want to get to more hacks, and then we're going to get to questions. So we're going to pack a lot in for the next. I know we've been kind of running for probably about 40 minutes now, but and we've had a lot of tech issues, so I apologize for all of that. So if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat, and we'll get to them towards the end. But in terms of like health insurance, how much you guys pay for health insurance, and what kind of health insurance is available to you?
So, like obviously coming from two different places, like what Michele alluded to with Canada, she can talk maybe about hers, but in Tampa, we were paying over $700 a month for Glen and I to have very basic emergency type of medical insurance with a $5,000 deductible. And here we have this very similar sort of insurance, also basically for emergency medicine. It's about just over $2,000 a year for the two of us, with a $2,500 deductible. Now, every 5 years of your age, that sort of goes up incrementally. So it depends on the age of the person, if you have pre-existing conditions, that sort of thing. But going to see a doctor or a dentist just for regular visits is so much more affordable here than what we were paying in the US.
What about Michelle's perspective on medical?
Well, for most of you know that Medicare in Canada is second to none. So we did have to buy, now that we're living down here full time, we also had to buy extended health care. And it worked out to be about $3,500 US for both Mark and I.
And what do you get for $3,500?
Full everything from, emergency hospital visits to, and there is a $2,500 deductible as well, but it'd be full medical care here in Mexico. And I've been in and out of the hospitals a couple times here. on a couple occasions, and the Medicare system here is second to none as well. I mean, top of the line equipment, top of the line doctors. It's no
Everyone's
one should
bilingual.
grade. Pardon?
Everyone's bilingual.
Yeah, well, for the most part, I had to go see a cardiologist actually, and his English was not great. We had a resident that came in and she did some translations for us. So
Yeah. So
So I'm sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Just to give you actual practical examples of costs. So to go to a dentist,
yeah,
our dentist is a Harvard-trained, highly specialized dentist. To go and have a full panoramic X-ray of your teeth, to have your teeth cleaned and the hygienist see you, and to do the consult would cost you $60 here.
yeah.
And then, for instance, like blood work, to do a full panel of blood work, what did it
It was
cost you?
about $70. And again, this is again where we have the hacks, because you can go to the hospital down the road and pay $300, or you can go a little bit into the local area where the locals go, where nobody speaks English, and take your requisition, and you can have the blood work done there for probably a third of the price or a quarter of the price.
Even eye exams, we both got full eye exams. I got 90 days worth of contacts, a set of progressives. Mark got a set of progressives and some another set of glasses. So 3 glasses, 90 pairs of contacts, day wear contacts, and we paid just over 500 Canadian, including the exam.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have a number of people that can provide the medical insurance. Can you remember who we use?
Yeah.
What's the name of the company? I think someone was asking.
Okay, Kathy. We use Kathy Smith for our insurance, but there are also other people that they brokers. They will provide, and then our particular insurance is IMG. And again, like we chose to have insurance that doesn't cover your annual physicals, your wellness exams.
Right.
Only because the wellness exams are pretty affordable. So you can pay a little bit more, you can pay double and get worldwide coverage. We also chose just to have coverage in Mexico. So there are so many options for insurance. And again, if you choose a higher deductible, your annual premium is going to be a lot lower. So it just, there's many different options with that.
Now, the caveat to all of this is when you're applying for medical insurance and you're coming to Mexico, you want to make sure you've done a full physical checkup with your doctor at least a year before you come, because that'll be the first thing that you get asked. And then depending on the kind of insurance company, there may be pre-existing issues or conditions that may be excluded. So that becomes a case-on-case conversation with your provider. But there are a couple, so you can go to a couple and see what the quotes are and what will be covered and won't be covered.
That's great. That's so helpful. And it's a big item for people to really make sure that they do right. And I think to also mention that if you're 65 and over, it's very difficult to get insurance. It's not impossible, but I think then you have to get expat insurance or something like that. You can't get.
Yes, you do, and you pay a lot. A lot of Americans here will have an address in the United States, and then they will get onto Medicare, and so they'll have the Medicare piece of it, and they'll also buy supplemental.
So but that doesn't carry over in Mexico, though.
No, it just means that they can get evacuated potentially if there's a big problem out of here and sent to San Diego and then get treated in a hospital in the States under their Medicare program. A lot of folks do that.
Interesting. Yeah, because I do know a couple who's actually, they're going to be in the Puerto Vallarta session when we do that on March 27th. So they're older. They're both closer to 70. And Craig, who just recently had knee surgery, and he actually elected to do it in Mexico. It ended up being cheaper than him going back to the States and doing it there. And so if you're interested in that, you can come in, because I'm sure he's definitely going to talk about that. And that's going to be the Puerto Vallarta session. So,
Awesome.
all right, let's just move forward so we can keep moving forward so we can get to some of these questions. We had talked before we got on in terms of some of the challenges of adjusting to Mexico, some of the challenges that you had, some of the hacks that you've learned, some of the lessons that you've learned that are not going to necessarily, be listed when you Google moving to Mexico. So tell me a little bit. So Michele, maybe you want to start in terms of,
Sure.
because you have been there, 10 months or actually less
7
than 10
months.
7 months.
7 months now.
How has the adjustment been for you, and what would you say some of your most major challenges have been?
I think for us, the biggest challenge we faced was, I think we just wanted to jump into Mexico life with both feet. And we got rid of our Canadian cell phone numbers. Well, during that time, this 2-step verification process came in. So the issue was really with our banks and our credit card companies because they do not accept international phone numbers. So that was a huge issue that really took up large chunks of our days trying to get into our bank accounts and logging into these credit card companies because of we couldn't verify through the 2-step verification process. And also a lot of companies will not take like a Wi-Fi phone, like a VIM phone. So really take that into consideration before you come. Don't be in such a hurry to get rid of all your routes, because getting rid of that Canadian cell phone really ate up a lot of time for us and headaches, for sure.
And then how
And
was
we,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, we actually keep 2 as well. So I keep my American line,
And I have a Mexican.
and it is convenient for all the reasons that Michele's explaining right now. It's just sometimes things just don't work with the Mexican connection as it relates to banking, and even things like Venmo or Zelle, or it's really handy having an American phone for that. So
But
it is convenient to have something, one foot a little bit in the States or Canada.
But Mexican cell phone is extremely, extremely inexpensive. I don't know what program, what plan you were on, but mine, I do pay as you go, and I pay 150 pesos every 26 days. That's $7.50 every 26 days gives me full use, and I do business on my phone. So
Wow.
very affordable.
I also do pay as you go, and I top it up for 500 pesos, which is, $25, $30. And that lasts me probably a good 30 to 40 days.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But Risa, there's a million hacks, and especially as it relates to, the banking system, and, we spoke a bit about the cars, but, understanding culturally how things work, and, if you have residency, you get discounts at local places, and, if you have any kind of, if you can prove you live here. So there's a bunch of opportunities. If you buy a house, and you want to set up your utilities, it's easier just to spend $150 for a morning and have a Mexican person go out with you. And that's how we help all our clients as well. We have someone who will go with them and go and help them set up their utilities and order electricity, etc. And it just takes all that angst and pain out of it, because it's super important to have those things, because you always ask for your electricity bill. When you're setting up anything, a bank account, or you want to buy a property, or it's the first document they ask for, not your passport. Hey, Michele, it's always like, hey, do you have your electric bill? I mean, are you kidding me? So there are lots of little subtleties everywhere, but the transition is not difficult. If you make an effort to speak the language, you don't have to speak the language, but if you try and you learn some basic Espanol, it's appreciated like anywhere else in the world.
All right.
That's right.
That's awesome. So I just want, before we get to questions, I forgot to ask you about your doggies. And so what was that like bringing pets over? What kind of, I'm assuming you needed for them to have certain shots, certain
They had,
certificates.
for sure, they had to be up to date with all their vaccinations, and we had to have proof of that. Oh, my girl. And then basically, we had to do a wellness certificate. They had a check before we came. They were signed off by the doctor or by the vet saying that they were okay, they're healthy enough to fly.
And then it
So
was
and
fine.
healthy enough to travel.
Did they have to leave the country within a certain period of time or anything like that?
Yes, it had to be within the week, I think, that it had to be documented and dated prior to you leaving.
Right. And I know that you had a connecting flight, so that must have been pretty stressful.
You know, the hardest part was actually when we arrived in the LA airport because so 2 large kennels, we had 10 bags. We need a Greyhound bus to pick us up and take us to our hotel. We actually had to split it up. I had to go ahead. Mark had to come over after. Like it was just it was just
wasn't
difficult.
A connecting flight that just took you right to Cabo? You had to stay in LA?
We traveled in August, which was our own fault, but we were homeless and we're staying with our kids, and you can only stay with the daughter-in-law for so long before she's tapping her toes going, it's time to go. Because we had planned on driving down, and when the US border was closed in August to land travel, we couldn't go through.
She's really playing, Arisa, she's really playing this down. They packed their whole life into their car, their dogs, their trailers. They drove to the border, the Canadian-American border, and they got turned away. They couldn't cross into America. They got turned away. So now they got to turn around, go all the way back to where they came from.
To my daughter-in-law's house.
Michele, I don't know how you did it, but in 2 days, Michele had flights. She had her dogs somehow on these flights, and we met them here, like 3-4 days later. And so you really hustled to get that done, but that was a nightmare for them.
Wow.
It was
COVID.
Wow.
It was COVID, and you chalk it up to the experience of it all, and it was not on our part. It was not the smartest time to travel, but we made it, and we're here, and we've never looked back.
That's great.
And Risa, just one more hack, which I think is important for everyone on this group, because most people who are coming here are either going to come to live for a fair chunk of time, or they're coming here to live here permanently. And so when you are coming here, it's so helpful having these kinds of shows and having the right people who live here that are helping you. Because unlike like many other countries, there's always someone out there to make a buck, right? And you got to be careful how you're steered and how you navigate and how you buy property and doing it all the right ways so that you don't end up with a problem. But everything here is actually quite simple in terms of purchasing property. It's easy to own, and the conveyancing process is easy, as long as you use the right people for that process. So it's very important to have that connection.
And,
Yes,
and for
absolutely.
people that are interested in getting either permanent or temporary residency, we have a fantastic connection to an immigration lawyer. Her office, we can walk to it from our house. And she has helped so many people, and she is so affordable. I think her fee is about $250. That's excluding the fee that you pay to the immigration department, which is also about $250. And you only pay her when you walk out of that immigration office with your card in hand.
And there's really two basic types of residency. So we mentioned earlier on, you can come in on your visitor's visa, and that's valid for 180 days. And you don't have to have permanent or temporary to own. So you can buy a house, no problem. But for the most people who end up coming here, they at least go and they get their temporary residency, because you're living here, and there's some benefits to that. And then there's two ways of getting that. When you apply for residency, typically you're going to do it in the States or in Canada, and you're going to go to your local consulate, Mexican consulate, and you're going to have your initial interview with them, and they're going to grant you residency, albeit temporary or permanent. They're going to stick a little thing in your passport, and that gives you a 6-month window to come into Mexico. When you cross the border, you go to immigration, they stamp that. Then you have another 30 days to go to the consulate here in your local area, in Cabo in this instance, and have them convert that into your residency card. That's the process. So it's not difficult. The temporary takes longer. It takes about 5 years. Permanent residency you can get after the 5 years, or there's a shortcut where if you have enough money and you can show you've got enough money in your bank account or in your savings for the last 12 months, I think the number is 130,000 US dollars, you can get an automatic permanent residency just by having enough money. And they'll give you that. And that permanent residence card is like a green card in the States, but it never expires. You're a permanent resident forever in Mexico. So
Yeah.
just in a nutshell, the immigration process.
Yeah.
No, it's great. But the 130,000, apparently it depends on which state you're from. It could be a little bit lower or up to 130,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more. But so it depends on what state you're from, and then it needs to be in there, I believe, for 12 months.
12
Yeah.
months. And it can be a combination of like your RRSP component plus, or your 401, which is the equivalent of the Canadian RRSP, and 401, same thing. But you can have a portion of that assigned to that amount as well. So, but for the most part, you've got to have a big chunk of that available cash to show that, hey, I can afford to live in Mexico for the rest of my life. They base it on a formula of what it costs a regular Mexican person to live for a year in Mexico. And then they extrapolate that over X number of years, and then they get to that number. And as long as you have that amount of money, you can apply for full permanent residency.
Right, exactly. And just a note on the visitor's visa, I have been hearing a lot of rumblings of people very concerned because they're cracking down on the visitor's visa. It is up to 180 days, but that's not guaranteed. And
We are hearing that
it's
too.
up to the immigration officer that you run into when you're there at the airport.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that if you do want to stay for longer, or stay for, if you're planning on being there for a month or 2 months, but would like to have the flexibility of being there for 180 days, is for you to request that.
Right.
Is what the word on the street has been. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yes.
No, it's
we've heard
very
that.
true, very true. But again, for the Baja, and I'm talking specifically the Baja, you don't have to have temporary or permanent to own a property. It just may mean that gate guard is going to give you 15 days and not 180 days on your visitor's visa, right? You're at the mercy of them.
Yeah.
And of course,
be
if you have
charming.
temporary or permanent, if you have temporary or permanent, you bypass all those lines as well because you have residencies. So when you come back into town, you just go to the local line and you're in and out quickly.
That's great. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up very soon. So I just want to ask some questions. Hold on just one sec. Looking at, how are the mask mandates and vaccination requirements in Mexico?
Well, that's a fantastic thing. You don't have to have a vaccination certificate. They don't require that anywhere. We do wear our masks when we go into a grocery store or to a restaurant. And they actually take your temperature when you walk into those places as well, and maybe give you a squirt of hand sanitizer, but they're not enforcing vaccination certificates here.
And
You do,
I'm finding that it is starting to loosen up. There's some, like even the Fresco and the grocery stores aren't doing the temperature anymore. Some of the restaurants still are. And I've noticed some of the restaurants, if you don't have a mask, they will, ask you to put on your mask. But there are a lot of visitors down here that are not wearing masks.
And as you know, the only requirement is when you leave Mexico and go back into the United States, you need an antigen. If you're going into Canada, you need the
PCR.
PCR as well.
I think that's just changed. You just need
Has
the
it?
antigen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's
Just.
antigen too, which is even better. So that's all relaxing. Right now in Cabo, we are like the lowest level of COVID alertness at this point. So it's really a non-issue here at the moment. We've got cruise ships coming in daily. If I look out the window right now, there's 2 of them in the harbor. And so that's 5,000 people on that ship. So they are just coming in the droves, and we're not seeing
And
too
we're
many
in the
issues.
green.
What's
That's
that?
great.
Yeah,
We're back
for sure.
in the green. Yeah.
Yes.
Dan is asking, do you prefer public or private medical insurance in Mexico? Pretty much everyone has private, as far as I know. You don't want public
Yes.
Yeah,
medical
as a
insurance.
resident, you actually can, if you've got your permanent residency, you can apply for the public health care, which is very, very inexpensive. But, you could wait to get treated. You may have to take your own linen to the hospital if you have to go to hospital, that sort of thing. So if you can afford private, go that route.
Yeah, I think that, and the level of care is just not up to par in terms of what most Westerners would expect in terms of,
You
by
know
going
what
to the
Michelle
public
was saying to you earlier, the hospitals here are second to none. I mean, they are amazing. Like
But that's mainly the
super
private
high.
hospitals.
Yeah, private
Yeah.
hospital.
I see an important question there
I'm sorry?
from Deborah about did you bring your furniture?
Yeah.
No.
So,
And they
Yeah,
advise
there you
not
go.
to bring your furniture.
Don't bring anything. Honestly, try
worth
to
it.
get rid of 90% of your items. It's not worth it. You can, from a financial standpoint, it is not worth it. You can repurchase your plates and your silverware and your beds. You can't bring beds down here, any mattresses anyway. Leave it all, sell it all, if you want my opinion. There's not enough storage in most homes in Cabo and in Mexico. You don't have room for those things. All my stuff sitting in Calgary in a storage unit right now, I'm thinking, why didn't I know this prior to moving? Because
There you
there's
go.
no way we can now, or from a financial standpoint, to ship it here is going to be, it just doesn't make sense. And I don't know where I would put it.
And a lot of places, when you buy them, they actually come furnished. And
I was
rentals
just
come
going to say
furnished,
that
too.
a lot of places, our place was furnished. We've just replaced a few items, but completely agree with Michelle. We sold every single solitary thing, and thank goodness we did.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
wish
But,
we
you know, and we don't live in the dark ages. For instance, we've got an Ashley Furniture just in San Jose. They're fantastic. We work with them a lot with our clients. And so if you're in the States or Canada, and you could just go to an Ashley store and you're planning your trip and you bought your house, and you can go and look at furniture and Ashley and say, hey, I love this thing, and they can order it for you and have it shipped to San Jose. So there are those options, but absolutely expensive to send anything to Mexico. So you're right, Michelle, just don't bother.
Yeah, bring the only things you can't replace.
Yes.
Sorry, I forgot. Cindy had a question. So since you only have Mexico medical insurance, do you get insurance coverage when you travel out of Mexico?
Yes, you can buy travel insurance.
Yeah.
Right. And that's pretty reasonable as well, right?
Very.
Yeah.
So Sharon is asking, is 65 the cutoff for medical insurance? For many private Mexican medical insurance programs, it is.
Recently, there's some of them are 70, the age of 70.
Okay. But I know there are workarounds, and it's good to talk to a health insurance broker who would be able to explain that. I've interviewed a woman who's a healthcare specialist, especially for Westerners, and that'll be posted on my YouTube channel at some point. But yes, because healthcare insurance is a big issue for people in terms of deciding whether or not to actually make the move and how old you are.
Yeah.
But it does get expensive, and I think that people need to know that as they get older.
I'm saying this kind of tongue in cheek, but when you move to Cabo, all of your worries go away.
There's no bad days.
There's no bad days in Cabo, and Tracy was a perfect example. She's always suffered from hypertension, very elevated high blood pressure, and we moved here, and I mean, on a fraction of the meds she used to be on. So I think and this speaks so well to your modern aging, site and blog, and it's really all about that, and the reasons for coming is for us health and wellness and mental well-being, well beyond trying to make any money or trying to make a buck or hustle for anything. We come here because it's like taking a step back 40 years, and it's simpler and it's less stressful, and it's just simple, and it's you're washing away a lot of the noise from the world that stresses most people out.
I didn't actually realize the level of anxiety that I was constantly living in until I came here, and I just, it's just so much more relaxed.
Back home, I was a chronic migraine sufferer, and since we've moved here in 7 months, I don't think I've had one headache that I would call a migraine. I've had headaches, don't get me wrong, but I have not had a full-blown chronic migraine since moving here.
Wow. So that's my huge thing, right? About how much stress can inflict physical illness on all of us. It's really, and that's why I've been so adamant, or not adamant, or I'm just such an advocate for people who are interested in trying different places to live, because your living environment, can be a sanctuary, or it can be a source of extreme stress, depending, right? Okay, so let's quickly wrap this up. So Ruth is asking, is your connection serving in Puerto Vallarta too? I'm not sure which connection you're referring to.
Your courses this month? Your webinars
we will have a series. We will have a session on PV. That's going to be on March 27th. That's going to be the last Sunday. Can we buy property with that value to be permanent residents? I'm not sure what that means. You can buy property whether or not you're a resident.
Without being a permanent, yes.
The answer is yes. A permanent resident in order to
in the Baja. I can't talk about the rest of Mexico.
Right.
Right.
The drive from California to Cabo,
awesome.
My husband just did it, and it's amazing. It is truly amazing. He's going to take me up here hopefully later this year. I've heard that it's an incredible journey down the Baja.
It's and you know what? For this group, guys, there's no cartels hiding around the corner. No one's trying to kill you in Mexico. Don't believe any of that hype. It's safe. You can drive down. You've got toll roads. There's big sections where you might have to fill up and really watch your gas and be careful on. You don't travel at night because of the animals, not because it's dangerous. There's cows, there's horses, so you don't drive at night. But the Baja is very safe. We have a very low crime rate, any incidences here. So it is a absolutely beautiful drive, and I'd recommend everyone does it at some point.
We did it in 2 days, and we should have taken 3 and actually enjoyed it more.
It's 1,000-mile drive from Tijuana, which is San Diego, down to San Lucas. 1,000 miles.
Wow,
and I would plan to do it in a week and stop at all those amazing places like Puerto and
stay in a hotel for $30 a night. Amazing food. It's worth it.
It's amazing.
I agree. Nikki, don't ship your SUV. Drive it down.
Yeah.
Right. Drive the SUV down. So what about RIFs from Canada? How do we deal with our portfolio?
You would keep your same, if you have the RBC, you just deal with it like you would. And if you're pulling from your RIFs every month or every year, you would just keep doing so as you are in Canada.
Do you know what the funny part is? If I go onto my bank right now, I'm still with RBC, Royal Bank of Canada.
Me too.
Because they when we left Canada, we went to the States. they just have a US arm to the bank, and so transferring money in between and doing all of that stuff is really easy.
All virtual.
It's all virtual. Just make sure you can get through to your 2-step verification process.
Right.
That's
and
right.
Which is, so Lisa, yes, you want to keep your US cell service, and you can use your US cell phone in Mexico, depending on who's your provider.
Yes, so there is another hack as it relates to having an American phone. You want to turn off all of the apps that generate data usage when you're not using your phone, because that's when the carriers get on your case and say, hey, you know, you've got a temporary, you shouldn't be using your phone in Mexico. So I turn off like all of my pay apps, like my navigation app, all of that stuff until I need them. And I only use my phone for email and calls and that sort of thing. But when I need to use it, I switch it on, I use it, and it uses barely any data. That way they never bother you.
Or we can use the Mexican one for directions
Right.
and things like that.
Right. So yes, you can keep your American or Canadian phone in Mexico.
That's great. And so, okay, so I'm going to just start to wrap this up. I forgot to
There's
show
your
this
book.
slide. This is this is Michele and Mark's book. So cute. And those are their 2 doggies. So at this point, some of you may be ready to really get in to start planning your move. Other people are still in the research phase, trying to really figure it out, you know, dipping your toe into like various aspects of the move, whether you're retiring or not. I just wanted to make sure that you guys know about 2 programs that we're offering. Dream Retirement in Mexico is a full online program. It's all pre-recorded videos of different experts, real estate agents from different parts of Mexico. We have a real estate attorney and doctors and a healthcare specialist, people who specialize in rentals and veterinary medicine and visas, and we have a whole contact resource list. So it's a nice little package for people who are ready to kind of make that leap. And we have a coupon YT, which is YouTube 100, if you want $100 off, and you just go to dreamretirementinmexico.com. And then the other program that we have, we're going to have a series of free webinars coming up in April, and that's April 3rd, 6th, and 7th at different times. You can go to dreamretirementinmexico.com/webinar, and that is completely free. And that is with my partner in Dream Retirement Mexico, Daniel Chemsian, who's a real estate agent in Puerto Vallarta. So we're going to be talking about how to purchase a property in Mexico and specifically about healthcare options for expats. So those of you who are who are looking at those 2 items and those are most important to you, you definitely want to come and tune on in for that. And then I do want to just let you know that we have 3 other sessions. For those of you who have hung in with us this whole time, thank you so much. It was a rough start, but we kind of finished it. So next Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be focusing on Playa del Carmen. Then the following week, we're talking about San Miguel de Allende. And then week 4, we're going to be focusing on Puerto Vallarta. I know some people had if anybody has any more questions, you can email me at hello@thisismodernaging.com. And if it's specifically for Glen or Tracy or Michele, I will make sure that they get the question and you get your question answered. But
Thank you.
This has been really, really great.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Risa.
so much, everybody, for tuning in and being patient. Glen, Tracy, Michele, so awesome.
All I can say
Thank
is,
you.
everyone on the stream who wants to come to Mexico, Cabo, we'd love to meet you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for the opportunity to answer these questions.
And Glen and Tracy will take care of you if you're looking to.
They will.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's right, because you're a real client. But
Well,
it's
actually,
true,
not really.
and that's where it starts, right?
Yeah.
In terms of creating your network wherever it is that you want to land.
Well, it's about trust, and I'll bring it back. It's about having someone here that's got your back, so that you navigate the house buying process safely, and you end up with your title and a beautiful home, and everything runs smoothly, and you actually enjoy the process. That's the ultimate goal here.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Bye,
Rita.
guys.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.